There exists a text so brief it could be etched into a single stone, and yet so profound it could contain the blueprint of the universe. A few cryptic lines that have survived fire, empire, translation, distortion, and time. A fragment of something ancient, a whisper carried through the centuries, crossing deserts and oceans, hidden in manuscripts and passed between mystics like a sacred flame. That text is the Emerald Tablet. It does not belong to any one religion, people, or culture. It belongs to the soul, to the seeker in every era who dares to ask the oldest of questions. Who am I? What is this world? Is there a hidden order beneath the surface of all things? The Emerald Tablet doesn't give you the answers. Instead, it becomes a mirror so polished that it reflects not the face you wear, but the essence you forgot. It's been called many things: a hermetic artifact, an alchemical key, a metaphysical riddle, a sacred code. But above all, it is an invitation to awaken, to remember, to return to what you already are, but have forgotten in the noise of the world. Legend says it was written by Hermes Trismegistus, the mysterious being born from the merging of the Egyptian god Thoth and the Greek Hermes. In him, writing and wisdom, science and magic, measurement and mystery become one. Hermes was not just a scribe of the gods, he was the keeper of divine secrets, the messenger between worlds, and the architect of sacred knowledge. It is said that Hermes inscribed this tablet not merely on stone, but on the substance of reality itself, an energetic formula hidden beneath all things. Some claimed the original was found clutched in the hands of a mummified priest in a secret chamber beneath the Great Pyramid. Others believed it was discovered in a cave by Alexander the Great, glowing with its own inner light. And still others said it was never written at all. It was revealed, transmitted in dream, vision, or trance, not from a person but from consciousness itself. But whether myth or memory, what matters is not the surface of the story. What matters is what stirs inside you when you hear it. Because those who read the tablet with the eyes of the soul feel something shift, a quiet remembering, a gentle trembling behind the veil of everyday thought. It begins with words so iconic they seem to vibrate with power. That which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. Just that one sentence has echoed through the ages. Entire spiritual lineages, mystical systems, and esoteric sciences were born from it. And yet the tablet continues, layer upon layer, each phrase denser than gold, pointing toward a secret alchemy of consciousness. It speaks of unity, of fire, of the marriage of opposites, of the power of the spirit to transform matter, and of the secret motion by which the cosmos is born from silence. But this is not knowledge for the intellect alone. The Emerald Tablet was not designed to be understood like an academic text. It was designed to activate, to ignite something, to whisper directly into the deep places within you that remember what language forgot. Those who walked the inner path, the Hermetic alchemists, the mystics, the initiates, understood this. They didn't dissect the tablet, they meditated on it. They carried it like a seed in the heart, allowing its verses to unfold inwardly, revealing insights not through thought, but through transformation. For them, it was not metaphor, it was map. A map of how spirit descends into matter, and how matter can return to spirit. A map of how the fragmented soul can become whole again. A map of how the great work is not performed in labs or dungeons, but in the furnace of the inner life, where pain becomes power, confusion becomes clarity, and the lead of the ego is transmuted into the gold of awakened being. In this video, we will enter the Emerald Tablet as if entering a temple, step by step, verse by verse. We will explore its mythical origins and follow its trail through Egypt, Greece, the Arab world, and the Renaissance. We will contemplate the power of each line and illuminate the universal laws it contains. We will trace the hidden lineage of seekers who preserved this knowledge against the tides of time, and we'll see how this sacred formula continues to call out to those ready to remember. But above all, we will descend into the core of what the tablet is really pointing to, you, because this is not just about ancient texts. This is about your soul, your journey, your fire, your return. The Emerald Tablet is not something you read. It is something you become, and perhaps by the end of this video, a part of you that has been long asleep will awaken and realize it has been carrying this tablet within it all along. Where did it come from? Who wrote it? And how did a text so brief, so mysterious, and so cryptically poetic become one of the most enduring and revered pieces of spiritual writing in human history? The true origins of the Emerald Tablet are unknown. No original copy exists. There is no ancient stone on display, no definitive scroll housed in a museum, no universally accepted author whose name history has preserved. Instead, there is only the echo of a legend, passed from tongue to tongue, language to language, continent to continent. And perhaps that is precisely what makes it so powerful. Because this text was never meant to be fixed in time, it was meant to live, to awaken, to survive, not in libraries or temples, but in the heart of the seeker. The earliest written version we know of appeared in Arabic sometime between the 6th and 8th centuries CE. It was included in a work attributed to a mysterious figure known as Balinus, identified by some as Apollonius of Tyana, a Greek mystic and philosopher often compared to Jesus. In this account, Balinus describes discovering the tablet in a secret chamber beneath a statue of Hermes in Egypt. There, in the hands of a long-dead sage, the emerald tablet rested, glowing faintly, etched with fire-like characters, untouched by time. According to the legend, the chamber was hidden deep underground and protected by ancient mechanisms. Some said it was a tomb, others believed it was a spiritual portal. Inside were strange devices, diagrams, inscriptions, evidence of a knowledge long lost to the modern world, and at its center the tablet, green, luminous, alive. But even this is not the beginning. Other versions of the myth trace the tablet's origin even further back, to the mythical continent of Atlantis, where the high priests of the ancient world recorded divine knowledge before the great cataclysm. Some claim the tablet was created in Lemuria, or Mu, or passed down from celestial beings to the first human initiates. In Egyptian lore, it was said that Thoth himself, god of wisdom, magic, and writing, inscribed the tablet using sacred language before ascending into the heavens. He left it not as a tool, but as a test, a key that would only unlock for those whose inner vision was awakened. As the centuries passed, the tablet made its way from the Arabic world into medieval Europe through Spain, where translations of Hermetic and alchemical texts began to circulate in secret circles of mystics, monks, and philosophers. By the 12th century, the Latin translation of the Emerald Tablet had begun to influence European thought. Suddenly, the idea that the universe followed hidden laws, laws not taught in churches or universities, began to stir the minds of seekers across the continent. It was during the Renaissance that the tablet truly blossomed. Hermes Trismegistus, once an obscure figure, was elevated to the level of prophet, sage, and keeper of universal wisdom. Thinkers like Marsilio Ficino, Giovanni Pico della Mirandola, and Giordano Bruno saw in Hermetic writings a sacred bridge between science, philosophy, and spirituality. Alchemy, far from being a crude attempt to make gold, became a sacred language, a metaphor for spiritual transformation. And at the heart of it all, the tablet, mysterious, untouched, a voice from the past speaking to the soul of the present. Even Sir Isaac Newton, father of modern physics, was drawn to the tablet. He translated it into English in the 17th century, weaving its wisdom into his private notebooks alongside equations and astronomical observations. For Newton, the Emerald Tablet was not superstition. It was a key to the architecture of reality. He believed that divine laws governed both spirit and matter, and that by understanding them one could glimpse the mind of God. But who really was Hermes Trismegistus? Was he a man, a myth, a title, or something more? In the Hermetic tradition, Hermes is more than a historical figure. He is an archetype. He is the voice of wisdom that echoes through all ages, taking different names, wearing different robes, speaking different tongues. To the Egyptians, he was Thoth. To the Greeks, Hermes. To Islamic mystics, he was Idris, or the Green Prophet. To the early Christians, he resembled Enoch, the one who walked with God and was taken up into heaven. He is the scribe of the soul, the messenger between worlds, the guardian of the threshold between the seen and the unseen. And the tablet? It is his offering, his letter to humanity, not written on emerald alone, but on the fabric of consciousness itself. Some Hermetic scholars believe that the tablet never physically existed, that it is not an object, but a teaching, a living glyph, passed through oral tradition, encoded in myth, embedded in architecture, ritual, and dream, a code that cannot be deciphered by reason alone, but through inner awakening. This is why the Emerald Tablet has survived, not because it was protected by armies or hidden in vaults, but because those who recognized its truth carried it in secret, hand to hand, heart to heart, copied by mystics in candlelit rooms, chanted in silence by initiates in the dark, tattooed into the very structure of alchemical diagrams and sacred geometry. It survived because it spoke to something eternal, and now, across the centuries, it speaks again. You may not find the original stone, you may never see a glowing tablet in a hidden chamber, but if you listen closely, the words are still alive. They vibrate in your chest. They move something ancient in your spine. They light a fire behind the veil of thought. Because you don't find the tablet, you remember it. And in that remembrance, something opens, something sacred, something that may change how you see everything. It is brief, barely a dozen lines, and yet, within its compact form lies an entire cosmos of wisdom. This is the Emerald Tablet, not a treatise, not a doctrine, but a living riddle, a spiritual formula condensed into sacred poetry. It does not explain, it unveils, and for those with eyes to see, it reveals not only the architecture of the universe, but the map of the soul's return to source. There are many versions of the text, translated across centuries, from Arabic to Latin to modern tongues, and while the words may differ slightly, the essence remains unchanged, timeless, radiant, and alive. In this section, we will walk slowly through the most widely accepted English translation, not to decode it intellectually, but to sit with each line like a mantra, to let its rhythm awaken something ancient within us. Let us begin. First line, it is true, without falsehood, certain and most true. This is not merely a preface, it is a declaration, an invocation of absolute truth. In Hermetic tradition, truth is not relative, it is eternal, unchanging, beyond duality. The alchemist begins not with doubt, but with deep inner certainty. This line announces, what follows is not a theory, it is the law behind all laws. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. Perhaps the most famous verse of all Hermetic philosophy. Here we find the foundation of the law of correspondence. The microcosm and macrocosm are reflections. The human being mirrors the cosmos. Your inner world and the outer world are connected, not just symbolically, but energetically. We explore this principle in depth in our video dedicated to the law of correspondence. If this line stirs something in you, I invite you to watch it. I'll leave the link in the top corner of the screen. Next, and as all things were made from the one, by the meditation of one, so all things are born from this one thing by adaptation. This line points to the origin of all creation. Everything, every star, every soul, every atom, emerged from one source. This is not the one of mathematics, but of spirit, the unity behind all multiplicity. And how does creation occur? Through meditation, through pure consciousness, through a divine act of intention, not force. The sun is its father, the moon its mother, the wind has carried it in its belly, the earth is its nurse. Now the elements appear, symbolic and alchemical. The sun represents spirit, the masculine force of illumination. The moon, the feminine principle of reflection and form. The wind is movement, breath, the bridge between realms. And the earth, the vessel, the matter that holds the mystery. Together, they birth the one thing into manifestation. The father of all the perfection in the whole world is here. Its power is entire if it be converted into earth. This line suggests that perfection, the divine blueprint, is not somewhere else. It is here, it is now, and its full power is revealed when it is brought into the earth, when the spiritual is made real. This is the heart of Hermetic alchemy, not to escape the world, but to spiritualize it. Separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, gently and with great ingenuity. This is the instruction for the inner work, to separate what is dense from what is pure, to purify the soul, to refine awareness, to bring clarity where there was confusion, not through violence, but gently, with insight, patience, and care. It ascends from earth to heaven and descends again to earth. and receives the power of the above and the below. This line describes the process of transmutation. The soul rises to heaven, awakens to spirit, and then returns, bringing divine wisdom into human form. This is the rhythm of mystical realization: ascent, integration, descent. The alchemist becomes a bridge between worlds. Thus you will have the glory of the whole world, and all darkness will flee from you. This is the promise. When you complete the great work, when you align with the truth within and without, you become radiant. You reclaim your divine inheritance, and darkness, which was only the absence of light, disappears. This is the greatest force of all forces, because it overcomes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. This line is powerfully paradoxical. It speaks of a force so refined it can enter all things, so gentle it flows through the tiniest space, and yet so potent it can move the immovable. This is the force of spirit. It is love, intention, consciousness. It transcends physical limitation. Thus the world was created. Here we are reminded that creation is not an accident. It is the result of this sacred process. The universe was not formed through chaos, but through divine wisdom acting upon substance. From this are and do come admirable adaptations, whereof the means is here in this. The tablet claims its own words are the key. Within this formula lies the mystery of transformation, not just of matter, but of self. Those who understand will find the path to adaptation, evolution, and return. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegistus, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. This is the signature: Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great, master of alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. The name is not just a title, it is a current, a lineage, a frequency of truth carried across time. That which I have said of the operation of the sun is finished and ended. The closing is mysterious. The operation of the sun may refer to the alchemical process or the enlightenment of the soul. To say it is finished is not to end the work, but to complete a cycle, to bring the fire full circle. The great work has been revealed. The seed has been planted. Now it is up to the seeker to walk the path. As above, so below. As within, so without. As the universe, so the soul. This single idea, contained within one simple phrase, has echoed through temples, mystery schools, and sacred texts for thousands of years. And yet, its depth still humbles even the wisest of seekers. In the Emerald Tablet, this principle appears in one of the most iconic and mysterious lines. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. This is the Hermetic law of correspondence, and for many it is the beating heart of the entire Hermetic tradition. It is not just a poetic metaphor. It is a mystical key, a formula that opens gateways between realms. On the surface, it may seem simple. What happens in one level of reality reflects what happens in another. The cosmos mirrors the human. The macro reflects the micro. But this law is far more than an abstract concept. It reveals the hidden symmetry of all existence. You are not separate from the stars. The patterns found in the movement of galaxies echo in the movement of your breath. The cycles of your emotions mirror the rising and falling of the moon. Your thoughts are not isolated. They ripple through the energetic web of the entire field. To understand yourself is to understand the universe. To work on yourself is to affect the whole. This is why ancient mystics were not merely astronomers or philosophers. They were inner explorers. They studied the stars not only to predict seasons, but to remember the divine structure of their own being. They understood that every layer of reality, spirit, mind, emotion, body, matter, is a reflection of one truth, one law, one source expressing itself through countless forms. And that source, that one thing, does not exist in some distant place. It pulses through every atom, every breath, every heartbeat. It lives in you. This is why Hermetic alchemists pursued not only the transformation of metals, but the transmutation of the self. They believed that by working with matter, they were simultaneously working with spirit. By purifying the physical, they were purifying the soul. By observing the outer world, they were learning the structure of the inner world. The lab was a sacred space, the body, a temple, the world, a mirror, and perhaps most importantly, The law of correspondence teaches us that every challenge we face externally has a root internally, that if we want to shift our reality, we must begin by shifting our perception, that the battlefield is not out there, it is within. A shadow we see in the world is a shadow still hiding in our own unconscious. A light we recognize in another is a light we have begun to awaken in ourselves. Everything is connected, not metaphorically, but literally. This is not just spiritual poetry. It is ancient science. Modern physics is slowly catching up. Quantum entanglement, holographic theory, fractals, and the strange behaviors of subatomic particles all seem to point to a universe that is interconnected at every level. A universe where the part contains the whole, where the observer affects the observed, where time and space are not fixed but flexible, depending on consciousness. But long before quantum mechanics, Hermeticism already whispered these truths. The tablet tells us, as above, so below, to accomplish the miracle of the one thing. What is the one thing? It is not a substance. It is not an object. It is the field, the infinite, intelligent, conscious source behind all things. It is what the Taoists called the Tao, what mystics called the light, what sages called the divine, what we might call pure awareness. And when we align with that awareness, when we remember that we are not separate, we begin to participate in the miracle. Suddenly, the boundaries between inner and outer begin to blur. Meditation affects matter. Emotion affects energy. Intention becomes manifestation. Synchronicity increases. Guidance arrives. Healing begins. The miracle of the one thing is not a dramatic supernatural event. It is the return to wholeness. It is the realization that we were never broken, that everything we need already exists within us, and that by restoring the link between the above and the below, between mind and body, heaven and earth, spirit and matter, we become channels for divine presence. We become living temples, living tablets, living reflections of the eternal truth. If you want to explore this principle even deeper, I invite you to watch our dedicated video on the law of correspondence. It expands on these ideas with more symbolic insights and practical applications. You'll find the link in the top corner of the screen. The law of correspondence is not just something to understand. It is something to live, to embody, to trust, especially when life feels fragmented, chaotic, or unclear, because even in the darkest moments the pattern remains. Even when you cannot see it, the symmetry still holds. Even when you forget, the one thing does not. And when you remember it, when you begin to act as if every layer of reality is sacred, connected, and meaningful, you begin to shift, and the world shifts with you. What is the purpose of the Emerald Tablet? Why would such a brief, cryptic text survive for centuries, passed secretly between mystics, alchemists, and seekers of truth? It is because the tablet is not just a description of the universe. It is a guide, a formula, a path, and that path is what the Hermetic tradition calls the Great Work. The Great Work is not the turning of lead into gold in a literal furnace. It is the transmutation of the human soul, from ignorance to wisdom, from fragmentation to unity, from sleep to awakening. It is the transformation of base consciousness into divine awareness. The Great Work begins with a calling, a subtle pull, a sense that there must be more than this ordinary life, a whisper that what we see is not all there is. That whisper leads the seeker into the inner journey, and the Emerald Tablet becomes the map. It outlines the steps of the alchemical process, not just as external operations, but as internal stages of purification and realization. The traditional alchemical sequence is often described in 7 stages. These are not rigid steps, but spiraling movements, each one reflecting a deeper layer of inner refinement. The first is calcination, the burning away of false identity. It is the fire of destruction, the crumbling of the ego. Old beliefs, attachments, and illusions are consumed. Painful, but necessary. This is the beginning of awakening. Next comes dissolution, the dissolving of fixed structures. Here, the seeker enters the unknown, the chaotic waters of transformation. It is a time of emotional release, deep surrender, and spiritual humility. The boundaries of the old self begin to blur, then separation. What is essential is distinguished from what is not. The soul begins to recognize truth from illusion, essence from ego. discernment sharpens, clarity returns, conjunction follows. The inner masculine and feminine begin to unite. Thought and feeling align. Spirit and body reconnect. This is the sacred marriage, the merging of opposites within the self. After conjunction comes fermentation. A new life begins to grow. The dead parts of the old self are broken down, and from them, something holy begins to rise. It is a mystical rebirth. The soul begins to taste a deeper joy, a sacred energy rising from within. Then distillation, a refinement of all that has been gained. Purity increases. Insight deepens. The seeker becomes more luminous, more aligned, more transparent to the divine. And finally, coagulation, the return of spirit into matter, the integration of the divine into the physical. This is enlightenment not as escape but as embodiment. The seeker becomes the philosopher's stone. The great work is fulfilled. But none of this happens in a laboratory. It happens in the heart, in relationships, in silence, in struggle and in surrender. The alchemist's fire is not just literal flame, it is the fire of transformation. The furnace is the psyche. The elements are energies within, and the gold is the awakened soul. This is what the emerald tablet points to. The sun is its father, the moon its mother. The earth is its nurse. The wind carries it in its belly. These are not just poetic images, they are symbols of your own inner world. The sun is your consciousness. The moon is your subconscious. The earth is your body. The wind is your breath, your spirit, your movement between realms. When the alchemist learns to balance and harmonize these forces within, something extraordinary begins to happen. The miracle of the one thing. The realization that all things are one, and that this one lives within you. The great work is not just about personal healing. It is about restoring cosmic harmony. Because as you purify yourself, you become a channel for divine order. You radiate coherence. You affect the field. You help realign the world, not through control but through presence. And this is why the great work has always been a path of devotion, not to dogma or to tradition, but to the truth within, to the living light that calls us home. Many who walked this path did so in silence. They left no names, no books, no titles, but their transformation echoes through time. They became living temples. They embodied the tablet, and now you are invited to do the same, not to imitate their journey, but to walk your own, to let the fire purify you, to let the waters renew you, to let the earth ground you, to let the breath move you, and to become, step by step, the gold that was always hidden inside the lead. This is the great work, and it has already begun. Why is the Emerald Tablet so brief? Why does it not explain itself, define its terms, or elaborate its concepts? Because it was never meant to speak to the intellect alone. It was written in a different language, not the language of logic, but the language of symbols. Every line of the tablet is a portal. Every word is a glyph. Every image carries layers of meaning that cannot be exhausted by explanation. It was designed to reveal itself not through study alone, but through contemplation. Symbols are how the soul remembers. They bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the inner being. They carry meaning across time, across culture, across language. They awaken something universal. And in the Hermetic tradition, symbols are not merely decorative, they are tools. They are precise instruments of transformation. Let us look again at the imagery used in the Emerald Tablet. The sun is its father, the moon its mother. The wind has carried it in its belly. The earth is its nurse. These are not random poetic flourishes. They are elemental symbols, rooted in alchemy, astrology, cosmology, and consciousness. The sun is the principle of spirit, active, radiant, masculine, conscious. It represents the illuminating force, the spark of divine will. It is the fire within, the higher self, the divine intelligence that gives life and direction. The moon is the principle of soul, receptive, fluid, feminine, reflective. It symbolizes the subconscious, the emotional body, the container of memory and feeling. Where the sun shines, the moon reveals. Together, they represent the sacred polarity, the dance of opposites that gives birth to form. Their union is the divine marriage, the inner conjunction, the alchemical wedding of spirit and matter, light and shadow, heaven and earth. The wind represents movement, breath, communication between realms. It is the carrier, the messenger, the unseen force that moves energy from one level to another. In many mystical traditions, breath is sacred, linked to spirit, life force, the divine spark within. The earth is the vessel, the foundation, the mother that holds and nourishes the process of becoming. She is not passive but deeply wise. She receives the forces of the cosmos and brings them into tangible form. She is the place of manifestation, the sacred ground where heaven descends. Together, these symbols describe a divine formula of creation, not just the birth of the physical world, but the birth of consciousness, of awakening, of your transformation. But the symbols do not end there. Later, the tablet speaks of separating the subtle from the gross, of ascension and return, of the miracle of the one thing. All of this is code. To separate the subtle from the gross is to refine awareness, to purify perception, to discern what is essential and what is illusion. It is the beginning of inner alchemy, clarifying the soul, distilling the truth, stripping away the noise of ego and habit. To ascend from earth to heaven and return again is the mystical journey. The soul rises to spirit, sees clearly, remembers its origin, then returns to earth carrying the light of that remembrance. This is not escapism, it is embodiment. It is the return of the divine into the human, the fusion of transcendence and presence. The one thing is the primal force, the universal intelligence, the original light that gives birth to all. It is both source and substance, both creator and creation. It is the fire behind the form, the awareness behind the thought, the stillness behind the sound. To speak of this force is to use metaphors, to describe what cannot be described. And so the tablet uses symbols, because symbols are how the invisible speaks. This is the power of Hermetic language. It never tells you what to think, it invites you to see. This is why the Emerald Tablet has never gone out of relevance, because it does not depend on cultural context or historical dogma. It speaks directly to the architecture of reality and the architecture of your inner world. And once you begin to read symbolically, everything changes. The world becomes alive, a mirror, a text. Every event becomes a message, every challenge, a lesson, every dream, a compass. Your life becomes the laboratory, your experiences become the elements, and your awareness becomes the philosopher's fire. You begin to see that the tablet is not just an external document, it is an internal code, a sacred geometry inscribed in your being, and each symbol is a doorway, each image a step, each line a mirror calling you home. This is why mystics and initiates of every age have returned to this tablet, meditated on its words, traced its lines in silence, dreamed its images into being, because they understood. The tablet is not something to solve, it is something to live. And when you begin to live it, when you start to see the world through the eyes of the symbol, you begin to awaken, not to new beliefs, but to the truth that was always there, waiting, in the symbols, in the silence, in you. All things come from the One, and all things return to the One. This is the secret whispered at the heart of every mystical tradition. And in the Emerald Tablet, this truth is stated clearly, though in symbolic language. And as all things were made from the One, by the meditation of the One, so all things are born from this one thing by adaptation. But what is this one thing? And how does everything emerge from it? The one thing is not a material object. It is not a deity in the sky. It is not a concept or a belief. It is the fundamental substance of all existence, the primal awareness from which everything arises, the field of unity behind all duality. In Hermetic philosophy, this one is pure spirit, formless, eternal, infinite. It is not separate from the world. It is the essence of the world. It is the invisible light from which all visible things are born. It is not something you can point to, but everything you can point to arises from it. The tablet says that all things are made from the One by its own meditation. This is a radical idea. It suggests that creation is not a mechanical accident. It is the result of inner stillness, of divine contemplation. In other words, the universe was not built. It was dreamed. All form is the result of a deeper intelligence contemplating itself, a silent awareness so profound, so total, that its stillness gives birth to motion, its emptiness gives rise to form, its silence sings the cosmos into being. This one thing does not exist apart from you. It is what you are made of. You are not separate from source. You are a particular expression of the one looking back at itself, a wave remembering the ocean. This is why Hermetic teachings emphasize unity, not just as a spiritual ideal, but as a literal truth. Separation is the illusion. Wholeness is what is real. And yet, the one manifests through the many. This is the paradox at the heart of creation. The one becomes two becomes four becomes 10,000 things. But the core remains untouched. The spirit of the one lives in all things, in every person, every star, every particle, every breath. It is the invisible thread that connects all being. The Emerald Tablet calls this unity the miracle of the one thing, because when you realize that all things arise from one source, everything changes. You begin to see yourself in others. You begin to understand that what you do to the world, you do to yourself. You begin to feel that the suffering of another is not foreign to you, and the healing of one soul contributes to the healing of all. This is the foundation of compassion, not as an emotion, but as a state of being, a natural response to the recognition of unity. The phrase, by adaptation, in the tablet is also key. It suggests that all things are born from the one, but they take different forms based on context, pattern, and purpose. Like light refracted through a prism, the one becomes many, but the light is still light. In the human being, this one manifests as spirit, as the higher self, as the divine spark that animates the body and guides the soul. In nature, the one becomes cycles, seasons, ecosystems, each reflecting order, harmony, and balance. In the cosmos, it becomes galaxies, stars, laws of physics, vast movements that mirror the hidden stillness from which they emerged. And in the alchemist, the one is remembered, not through belief, but through direct experience. Through the great work, the seeker returns to the source, not by leaving the world, but by awakening to the presence of the one within it. This is the goal of Hermetic transformation, to dissolve the illusion of separation and realize the unity that has always been, and from that unity, to act, to live with awareness, to speak with intention, to love with clarity, not because it is virtuous, but because it is true. When you remember the one thing, you begin to see everything differently. The challenges of life become invitations. The wounds become initiations. The ordinary becomes sacred. You realize that spirit is not somewhere else. It is here, now, in the breath, in the silence between words, in the still point behind every motion. And you remember that you were never apart from it. You were simply asleep to it. The Emerald Tablet does not argue this. It does not try to prove it. It simply states, all things come from the one by the meditation of the one. And in that line, a great mystery unfolds. Because if all things come from the one, then so do you. So does your journey. So does your longing. So does your awakening. And to remember the one thing is to begin the return. The return not to a place, but to what you truly are. Why has the Emerald Tablet remained in the shadows for so long? Why have so few people heard of it, despite its influence on mystical traditions, science, alchemy, and philosophy? Why did its wisdom pass through secret channels, hidden manuscripts, and coded diagrams, rather than being taught openly in schools or religious institutions? The answer is not simple, but it begins with one uncomfortable truth. Powerful knowledge is often hidden, not because it is dangerous in itself, but because it makes you powerful. And throughout history, those in control have feared nothing more than individuals who awaken to their own power. The Emerald Tablet is not a religious doctrine. It does not ask for obedience. It does not promote fear, guilt, or dependence. Instead, it offers a direct path to inner transformation. A path that does not require priests, dogma, or intermediaries. A path that teaches that the divine is within you, and that the universe is a reflection of your own consciousness. To those who build systems of control, this is a threat, because a person who sees clearly is not easy to manipulate. A person who has remembered their connection to the one thing cannot be divided by ideology. A person who knows the symbolic language of the soul becomes immune to propaganda. They begin to see through illusion. They begin to awaken others. And so for centuries, the sacred sciences were driven underground. Alchemy, Hermeticism, astrology, mysticism, sacred geometry, all were declared heresy, sorcery, or superstition, not because they were false, but because they gave people access to truth without permission. In the early Christian era, the rise of institutional religion marked a shift. Spirituality became centralized. Gnosis, the direct experience of the divine, was replaced by orthodoxy. Initiation was replaced by obedience. Symbols were stripped of their mystery. Myth became literal history, and the sacred feminine, the inner world, the intuitive path, all were buried beneath layers of dogma. In this environment, the Emerald Tablet could not survive openly, and so it went underground, preserved by secret orders, passed hand to hand among alchemists, kept alive in symbols, stories, and coded texts, not because it was forbidden by law, but because it was dangerous to those who claimed authority over the soul. Even during the Renaissance, when Hermetic texts were rediscovered and studied by philosophers, they were often wrapped in secrecy, not just to avoid persecution, but to protect the knowledge itself, because sacred truths, when given to the unprepared, can be misunderstood or misused. The Hermetic path is not for everyone. It requires deep responsibility. It asks you to become your own authority, to dismantle illusions, to face your shadow, to embrace paradox, and to walk the path not of comfort, but of transformation. This is not easy. And so, the tablet remained hidden in plain sight, revealed only to those who were ready to see. But there's another reason it was hidden, one even more mysterious. The Emerald Tablet was never meant to be read by everyone at the same time. It was designed to reveal itself across time, to appear to those who through inner longing had prepared the ground of the soul. Its wisdom is veiled not only by outer suppression, but by inner readiness. It cannot be forced. It must be invited. It is not a text that explains. It is a mirror that reflects. And only when the seeker is ready to see themselves will they understand what it says. In this way, the tablet is alive. It chooses when and how it is seen, not to hide, but to protect, not to exclude, but to preserve its sacredness. And now, it is surfacing again. In this time of global chaos, spiritual hunger, and inner confusion, ancient wisdom is re-emerging, not as dogma, but as invitation, not as tradition, but as truth. The Emerald Tablet is one of many ancient voices returning to remind us that we are not separate, that we are not powerless, that the divine is not in the sky but in the breath, the body, the silence within. This is why it was hidden, not to punish you, but to preserve the sacred flame until the moment came when you would be ready to receive it. And if these words are stirring something in you, if you feel that deep recognition in your bones, then the tablet was not hidden from you. It was waiting for you, and now it has found you. We live in an age of forgetting who we are, forgetting where we came from, forgetting what is sacred. We are surrounded by noise, constant information, endless opinions, artificial stimulation. But in all this noise, something vital is missing. Silence, stillness, depth. The modern world, for all its technological brilliance, has become disconnected from the soul. We have maps of the stars but have forgotten how to read the sky. We have decoded the genome but do not know how to heal the heart. We have built machines to carry us across the planet, but struggle to sit quietly with ourselves for even a few minutes. In this landscape of distraction, the wisdom of the Emerald Tablet may seem outdated, obscure, irrelevant, but in truth, it has never been more needed than now, because the tablet does not offer more information. It offers transformation. It does not give us more to consume. It gives us a path to remember, the path back to inner alignment, to spiritual sovereignty, to unity. When the tablet says, "As above, so below," it reminds us that the inner and outer worlds are not separate, that our anxiety is mirrored in the earth, that our collective disconnection creates imbalance not only in society, but in the environment, in the body, in the cosmos itself. When it says, "Separate the subtle from the gross," it speaks to the urgent need to discern truth from illusion, to turn off the noise and listen deeply, to detox from the false and return to what is essential. When it says, Thus you will have the glory of the whole world. It does not promise material wealth or egoic triumph, but the radiance of the awakened soul, a life lived in harmony with the real. In a world of fragmentation, the tablet teaches unity. In a world of fear, it teaches trust. In a world of domination, it whispers surrender. The relevance of this ancient text is not in its age, but in its essence. It speaks not to a time or a culture, but to the soul itself, and the soul remains unchanged, even as the world changes around it. More than ever, people are waking up. They are searching beyond religion, beyond politics, beyond science. They are seeking something deeper, something timeless, something real. And when they search deeply enough, they begin to hear the voice of the ancient ones, the voice that says, "You are not lost. You are not alone. There is a path. There is a pattern. There is a light inside you that remembers." The Emerald Tablet is one of those voices. It does not speak loudly. It does not beg for attention. It waits, silently, patiently, like a mirror buried in the earth, until someone is ready to see their reflection. And now, that moment is returning. More and more, the tablet is being rediscovered by mystics, healers, artists, scientists, and seekers of every kind. Not as a relic, but as a living text. People are realizing that the most advanced technology is consciousness, that the deepest healing comes not from fixing the body, but from remembering the soul. That true wisdom is not found in endless data, but in ancient silence. The tablet offers us this silence, this stillness, this clarity. It offers a compass in a world that has lost its direction, a mirror in a world obsessed with masks, a key in a world that has forgotten the door, but it does not force itself upon anyone. It waits for those who are willing to slow down, to listen, to feel, to remember, because the truths it holds cannot be understood by the intellect alone. They must be lived, experienced, felt. The miracle of the one thing is not just something that happened in the past. It is happening now, in this moment, in you. Every time you choose presence over distraction, you honor the tablet. Every time you listen to your intuition, you align with the one thing. Every time you act with love, clarity, and truth, you fulfill the great work. The tablet was never about the past. It is a message sent into the future, to a time when humanity would be ready to receive it again. And perhaps that time is now. And you are one of the souls who came to remember, not just to read the tablet, but to become it. You've walked with the Emerald Tablet. You've listened to its verses, felt the weight of its symbols, contemplated its origins, its mysteries, its message. And now, at the end of this journey, one truth remains. The tablet was never just a piece of stone. It was never just a text. It was always a reflection, a reminder, a key to something hidden not beneath the sands of Egypt, but deep within your own being. Because the real Emerald Tablet is not outside of you, it's inside you, etched into your soul, encoded in your breath, vibrating quietly beneath your thoughts. Every line of the tablet speaks not only of the cosmos, but of your inner world. The one thing is your essence. The above and the below are your spirit and your body. The fire and the earth, the sun and the moon. They are your breath, your will, your feelings, your silence. You are the alchemical vessel. You are the lab. You are the philosopher's stone in the making. The great work is your life, your wounds, your awakenings, your choices. Every time you separate the subtle from the gross, when you speak truth, when you clear illusion, when you return to stillness, you live the tablet. Every time you remember that the outer world is a mirror of the inner and act with presence and love, you live the tablet. Every time you rise from darkness with new light, you live the tablet. The Emerald Tablet is not a relic from the past. It is a living current, a vibration, a presence that finds its way to you when you are ready. And now it has. So what do you do with this? You don't need to memorize the verses. You don't need to understand every symbol. You only need to listen, to feel, to follow the quiet movement that's already begun inside you. It might begin with a breath, with a walk in silence, with a feeling that the world is more alive than you thought, with a pull toward mystery, toward inner clarity, toward transformation. You may begin to see your challenges differently. not as problems but as initiations, not as obstacles, but as fires of alchemy. You may begin to notice that the real gold is never outside. It is the light that emerges when your soul comes into alignment. This is the miracle of the one thing. It doesn't make life perfect. It makes life sacred. And that sacredness is what the world needs now. So take the tablet with you, not in your pocket, but in your heart. Read it not with your eyes, but with your life. And when the time comes, pass it on, not with explanations, but with your presence, your light, your silence. The Emerald Tablet was never meant to remain hidden. It was meant to be embodied. And perhaps that is why you're here. Before you go, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and explore our other deep dives into ancient wisdom and Hermetic teachings. There's so much more to uncover, and your journey has just begun. Until next time, may the one thing guide you home.